Hello everyone, welcome to the 2020 open house, and this is the Chinese room. The Chinese Nationality room is dedicated in 1939, and it's one of the second set of nationality rooms built in the Cathedral of Learning. The Chinese room itself is inspired by the 18th century imperial palace style in Beijing. Several indications you should be able to find in, for example, the ceiling, in the paintings, the windows with like the opaque glass, as well as the ceiling panels. In the middle of the ceiling, you can see a huge sculpted dragon. It is, if you look carefully enough, the dragon is unique from the other dragons painted on the ceilings in the way that it has 5 claws instead of 4. And that means it's the imperial dragon that governs the fate of the nation. Also, an interesting thing about dragons, Chinese dragons and mythical creatures, is that they are the combination of 9 different animals of 9 different tribes in ancient China. On the ceiling, other than the imperial dragon, you can also see other dragons, bats, phoenixes, and characters that show the different virtues and arts that an educated man should possess. The Chinese history is a long and profound history, and within the history gave birth to a lot of interesting and profound people. And to show this, the Nationality room included the name of some people on the 4 panels next to the ceiling. For example, some people may recognize the name of Lao Tzu, who is a famous philosopher. His writing, The Way, is the writing that has like the second most copies and translations in the world. You can also see Mulan, who recently had a film from Disney. And moving on to the panels above the blackboard, we have the names of famous poets, writers, and politicians and military officers. Some people may recognize the name of Li Pai, who is one of the most significant poets in China and wrote hundreds of famous poems. So this panel is interesting among the 4 panels in the way that, as you can see on the right side of the panel, there is a gap left. That means throughout the Chinese history, there has been a lot of famous people and they cannot all be included on the panels. And in the future, there definitely will be more people to come. And the empty space represents all the people that should be on the panel but was not written on here. And on the last side of the panel that's opposite to the blackboard, we can see names of more ancient people that trace back to thousands of years ago, including famous emperors and people that are of mythological origin. Below the panel, we can see a huge slate of Confucius the Great Teacher, because the whole room is meant to emphasize on the classless education style of Confucius. And as you can see, Confucius is in one of his most famous poses, where where the 2 hands of his cover each other in such a certain way. And Confucius is famous for posing in various different styles, and they all have different meanings. So the tables and chairs in the room are strongly associated with the Confucius style of teaching. For example, the professor chair states a quote from Confucius that goes, "Teach and inspire steadily and gradually." And the other chair shows the 12 characteristics that an educated man must have. For example, the one that I'm holding right now shows charioting, which is a skill that's popular amongst ancient China because of the use of horses. So this side of the room, which is the blackboard, shows the two other philosophies in China other than Confucianism. Within the blackboard panels, you can see firstly like two phoenixes that are really important to Chinese culture, but other than that, the other school of philosophy, which is Buddhism. And here are the 8 treasures in Buddhism, which apparently Buddhist left in his footprint after his meditation in the Sacred Mountain. For the 8 treasures, for example, let's point to, on the far left is the endless knot, which symbolizes longevity. There's also the canopy, which is our hierarchy or classes in the military and in politics. You also have the holy wheel, the 2 fish, which is prosperity. And for the fish, as far as I know, that is homophone, like the word for fish is homophone for prosperity, and that's why. Yeah. Under the 8 treasures, you can see the famous yin and yang symbol surrounded by the trigrams, which is called Bagua in China. And the 8 trigrams has a vigorous symbolism of different elements in nature and in human life. The yin and yang symbol perfectly shows the balance in the Chinese culture that is also important in education, and that's also why it's in this room. So as we're approaching the end of the year, I must talk about the Chinese New Year, which is one of the most important festivals in China. The origins of the Chinese New Year has various different stories, but I would just pick one of the most famous ones to tell you. Apparently in ancient China, there used to be a mythical creature called Nian, and when it's approaching the end of the year, he would come out to terrorize villages and pillage people. So the people were really scared of Nian, and they were really scared of the end of the year. Until one day, the god and goddesses told the people that Nian has some weaknesses. Apparently, he is scared of loud noises and the color red. So the people created fireworks and the cash money, the pocket money, to scare away Nian whenever it approaches the end of the year. And since then, Nian has never appeared in front of people to do any harm. And the end of the year slowly becomes something that people were no longer scared of, but instead happy of. As we're slowly leaving the Chinese room, we finally get a good look at the entrance door. Above the doorway is a Chinese axiom that roughly translates to humility of mind goes with loftiness of character. And on each side is a mythical creature called Qilin. On the 2 sides of the panels, you can see the Chinese national flower, which is the plum flower, and it symbolizes purity. On the ground, you can see 2 laughing lions that guards the entranceway of every Chinese doorway. And apparently patting them will give you good luck and support for when you go out. Before you move on to the next room, I just want to say Happy New Year, 新年快乐, and thank you for listening to me about the presentation of the Chinese Nationality room.